So I'm a fan of my next guest. Really, really like this guy. He's got so much to offer the world, so many gifts and talents. And when Steve called me and said he'd like to be on the podcast, I kind of wondered about it. I was like, all right, what do you want to bring to the podcast? What are you going to bring to the audience? Knowing what he does and all that, I didn't quite see a fit. And so I said, make me a pitch. And he did. He came back with what he could bring to the podcast. And I was like, I have this conversation with my clients all the time. So I said, absolutely, come on the show, bring your talents, bring your gifts. You're right on the money. This is such a good topic. So Steve Renard is the founder. Oh, hold on a second. I am not wearing my reading glasses, so I can't do your interview properly. And I'm not editing this out because this is real and this is live. So Steve Renard is the founder of Crown Fox Adventures, where he is dedicated to helping leaders and executives connect with their audience on camera and on stage by mastering their presence and telling powerful stories. See, this is what I have conversations with my clients all the time about getting visible, about being out in the world. And they, the old school, they don't want to do it. He spent 20 years as a corporate video producer and developed a unique process for working with people who frequently didn't want to be in front of the camera. Does that sound familiar to you? But he knew that they had a responsibility to be there. He uses an inside-out approach because he's definitely a natural coach. He's a people person, focusing on the particular challenges and internal roadblocks to connect his client's face and helps connect roadblocks to connection.
The roadblocks to connection that my clients face when they're getting in front of any kind of audience.
That's like so good. That's not written. That's not written that way on your introduction. So again, I'm keeping all this in because I'm not editing any of this. So he is he knows what he's doing. And what I love, and I was doing a little bit more research on him, and he says, I help people serve and connect with their audience, and that's anyone that is in the midlife stage, because we need, both at work, both at home, we're always enrolling, we're always in an audience. We need to be able to tell our stories, whether it's to our teenagers or to our employees or to our customers. So Steve, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
And thanks for letting me have fun with the introduction and not cleaning it up and making it all professional. Because if I tried to make this podcast perfect, I would never, ever, ever do it. I think anything worth doing is worth doing half-assed, and the mistakes just make it so that it actually gets out in the world. But really, your pitch was right on, because I have this conversation with my clients all the time. They didn't used to need to be out front. They didn't used to need to have a really good photo shoot. They didn't need to be able to talk to a camera. Who needed to? And now with COVID, right? We more and more, we need to be able to talk to a camera. We need to be able to move our organization forward from a desk.
Exactly.
So you're right on the money. My curiosity is, why this? Why did you choose this career trajectory, or did it choose you?
I think it chose me, and I chose it both. I chose to be a video producer when I got out of college, and I really enjoyed that for a long time. And the first 10 years or so that I spent doing that, I spent learning a lot of the sort of tricks that video producers would use when they had somebody who wasn't comfortable on camera to get them through it. But the problem was always that you were just sort of getting them through it. To me, it wasn't that you were really building that connection and that sense of humanity for that person, when somebody was watching it later.
Well, I think 10 years ago, even maybe 5 years ago, a monotone message from the CEO was good enough.
Yeah. There was a good, and there was always a good enough sort of, feeling to it for me. And I really wanted to help people to do that better, and to really have that sense of humanity and sense of almost a conversation with the audience, even if it's a one-way, sort of thing. And so I started thinking about, well, how can we do this better? And thinking about, like you said in the introduction, an inside out sort of process, because a lot of that coaching that people give to those folks who are uncomfortable on camera is an outside in kind of thing. It's, focusing on posture or gestures or counting filler words or anything like that. And so I started thinking, well, what's causing this person to struggle here? and what's causing them to struggle is something here or something here, something that they're feeling
So you're pointing
emotionally
to
or
your head. You're pointing
psychologically.
to your head and your heart.
Yeah. Sorry for the audio part. It's something in your head or something in your heart, something emotionally or psychologically that's causing you to not be comfortable in that situation. And a quote I heard recently that I really love is, I wanted to help people to get their butterflies flying in formation, basically. So you've got all this tension that's coming up in that situation. How do you get all those butterflies flying in formation so that you can actually connect with your audience and show up as a human being?
So when you say get those butterflies flying on formation, in other words, use the energy that's coming up.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen is famous for. Someone asked him, how are you so comfortable on stage? He goes, "No, I have stage fright, right?
Yeah.
But I use it. Like I run on stage and I just use that energy to start the concert." So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about that, and talking about how to get the things out of the way that you need to get out of the way, how to get around the things that you need to get around, and looking at all of the different parts of somebody that show up. Because a lot of times what I would see would be somebody coming into a studio who seemed like they were a really engaging, amazing person to have in front of a camera. I could see why somebody said, "Oh, this person should be in this video." And then we'd turn on the lights and the camera and they would just freeze up. It was like somebody else took over. and 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 then we're trying to figure out, like, okay, what happened to that person I was talking to 30 seconds ago? And so what I'm working on with people is how to get back to that person that you were before the camera came on, to be within that sort of one standard deviation of the best version of yourself.
And for me, it took 100 videos for me to finally go, "Oh, this is Mark. Mark can now talk to a camera as if he's talking to a person." But it took 100 videos, right? So I one of my clients just did an annual meeting virtually that they usually have in person, and they had maybe 12 presenters.
Okay.
I coached my two people. But one of my guys, so the CEO did a fabulous job. He's been coached. He's charismatic. Then there was kind of a mediocre, but good enough. That what you were talking about, good enough. But put toothpicks in your eyes just to keep awake. Then one of my guys showed up, and it was night and day between him and everybody else. Even the people who were excellent and him. And I talked to him afterwards, and his facial expressions, his intonation, I felt like he was talking to me, not to a camera, not reading a script. And they did have teleprompters. I just felt like he was, excuse me, in relationship with me. And so that's what you're talking about, is going from monotone to good to, all right, now we're communicating and connecting.
Yeah. And hopefully doing it in less than 100 tries.
Well, I didn't have someone helping me like you.
Yeah. You've had to do this on yourself and learn it. Yeah. You've had to do this and learn it yourself. And I'm there to help people do it in hopefully, less than that.
Although I will say I did take one lesson, and one lesson that Brett Culp, who's been a guest on the program, told me, is that empathizing on video is 10 times harder than talking to a room full of 1,000 people, because you're both, when you're talking to an audience, you're the lightning, they're the thunder, right? And then when you're on video, you're the thunder and the lightning. Because I was trying to figure out, why am I just dying on every one of my lives? Like afterwards, I just want to take a nap. So you do have to do that. So having someone like you bring that out is really worthwhile. So, but now tell me why. Tell me why it's important in this day and age to hire someone like you and actually put the resources towards getting better at this.
So it's important to talk to somebody like me, because it's vital to what you're doing. As a leader, or as an executive, or as a business owner, or as a parent, or any of the other things that we do, human connection and communication is absolutely vital to what we're doing. And whether it's whether it's addressing an all hands meeting or talking to your kids at the dinner table, you have to be paying attention to what those people are looking for. And I take people through a process where we think about 4 key things. It's the only clever acronym I've ever come up with in my entire life. So it's EPIC, EPIC. It's, what sort of energy do I have right now, and what kind of energy do I need? What parts of myself are showing up, and what parts do I need here? What's my audience interested in, and or it could be what are my kids interested in, or whatever. And what information do I have that's valuable for them? And then what's the context? What's the story that I'm going to be telling that's going to help them both to stay engaged and to retain that as we go forward?
What's the hardest part? What's the hardest part? What's the hardest one of those 4?
The parts can be really hard. The parts of your personality, because a lot of people will get up in front of a camera, and there's some part of their personality that says, I can't do this, and just shuts everything down. And that's the part usually that we're working with first, is how do we get that part to just take a step back for a minute and let some other part come through that can really shine.
And for me, that's kind of the thing that's, the script can be written, the research can be done about what's interesting. All those things can be done. It's that, and it's on stage, it's whether it's on stage or on video, is now, how do I get to myself, to who I am when I'm talking to people I know and like, like, how do I get there? So, so let's do some low hanging fruit.
Okay.
How what are a couple ways, like, let's say someone's listening right now and they have a presentation tomorrow.
Okay.
Let's give them some low hanging fruit so that they can be better tomorrow.
Sure. So one way that you can get through, and particularly since right now we're in the midst of the coronavirus and things are virtual, one way that you can get through that is think of one particular person to talk to, and picture that, get that picture clearly in your head. Practice this a couple times beforehand, but don't think about anybody else that's on the call. And if you have an an interactive sort of thing, you're going to be paying attention to who else is there. But when it's just you talking, think of that one person that you're talking to and talk to them as if you're just talking to them. And that will come through to the audience, because you will show up as so much more human, because you have a sense of talking to a person. And like you were talking about, Mark, that this person had, a sense that he was talking specifically to you. You can get very far with that just by doing that quick visualization exercise of talking to a particular person, rather than thinking of, oh my God, I'm talking to a group.
When I was first writing my first book, the publisher was, build your avatar of who the book is for, one person. But no, I want to cast a wide net. No, write the book for one person and one person only. And then you'll be surprised at the wide net that it casts, but that one person, because, and then your voice is very clear. So when you take that to a presentation or something like, like, even if you're on like a conference call where you can't see anybody, and you're visual, that's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's one easy thing to do. Another easy thing that you can do, that's really going to help people to connect with you on the other end, if you are on a Zoom or something like that, is look at your camera. I mean, this seems silly, and it's going to be hard to do at first, because you want to, like I want to look at you down here, you're on my screen down here.
Just for people who are listening, we're doing a Zoom call, recording this, and I do put the Zoom calls on YouTube for you with closed captions, so you guys so the hearing impaired can hear it. But you're right. So I notice that you are looking at me, so you're looking at your camera.
Yeah. So I'm looking at my camera.
I'm looking at you, which I do on purpose, because I really want to be connected and with you in the conversation.
Yeah.
Because I've made that conscious choice that when I'm interviewing or when I'm coaching, I'm not going to look at the camera. I'm going to be looking at the person. When I do my solo videos and things like that, I do look at the camera.
Yeah, of course. And I tend to go back and forth in things like this, where part of the time because I know you're looking at me, and I'm checking in on you every once in a while. And so because I know you're looking at me, I want you to feel like I'm talking to you and connected to you.
It's night and day.
Yeah.
I've noticed when people lock onto the camera, it doesn't look like they're looking at the camera. I feel like they locked on me. So I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah. So that's the second thing. And then the last thing, the third thing I would do is, run through those, I talked about the epic questions in your heads, or if I talked about the epic questions a second ago. run through those in your head like 5 or 10 minutes before you actually start. Get really clear about, where's the energy, what sort of energy do I need here? What parts do I need here to show up? And then really, in those last few minutes, thinking about who's my audience, what are they interested in? How can I tell my story so that they're really going to get it?
Wow. That's cool. So what do you do with nerves? So I'm about to go on stage, or I'm about to turn on the camera and I can't breathe. What do you do?
So run through those questions. Start thinking about your audience, because it's really all about your audience, and it's about making sure that they get the message, and you're there to serve them. You don't have to perform. Like if you think about it as a performance, it's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help you, and it's not going to help them. You're just going to get more nervous if you think, oh, I have to perform for this group of people, and they're going to see that you're trying to perform. Think, what do they need from me? What do I have for them that's valuable? That's why that question is there. Is what information do I have that's valuable to my audience, and how can I serve them better by being here? And
so I've done hundreds, maybe 1,000 presentations in my life, right? And I've been on stages, in front of 3 people and in front of thousands of people, and it still has never changed. I lose my breath just as I'm walking on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just, I have not been able to fix that. And I stopped freaking out about it. I started saying, that's just me. One, I sweat more than most people if I'm in front of an audience, and I lose my breath that first 10 seconds. Yeah. So, how do you physically handle that?
How do you physically handle that? Just pause and be present with yourself, I would say. Recognize that that's going to happen, and that's just something that's going to happen, and it's part of your process.
I've seen people do that on stage. Yeah. I've seen people walk out on stage and just wait 5 seconds,
mm-hmm.
Either to connect with the audience if that's what they're doing, but or just wait for their breath to come back.
Yeah, and it could be either one of because the audience doesn't know, and the audience sees you, and really, if at any point you pause in the midst of a presentation, and particularly right at the beginning, that doesn't come across the way that you think it's going to come across. You're thinking in your head, oh my God, they're going to think I'm crazy, or I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not saying anything yet. And they're thinking, oh wow, they're really put together. Like they're taking time, and they're really serious, and they want to be sure about what they're saying. And so the perception of that, from being up in front of the audience is very different from actually being in the audience.
The pause can be really, really powerful.
Yeah.
So curious, what's your favorite part of what you do?
My favorite part is really talking to people and seeing the change that happens in people, even in just, a couple sessions with somebody, where I've got, I worked with a client recently where she had done some of her own videos. She's a small business owner. She had done some of her own videos, and it was clear to me after talking to her for 5 minutes that she was not showing up as the same person in her videos that she was when she was just talking to me. And, in like 1.5, and really 1 to 1.5 sessions with her, we had already gotten to a point where I was seeing so much more of her and really seeing those parts shining through a lot more.
So satisfying.
And that is just amazing to be able to see.
So what, and for her, what do you think, your special sauce that you brought to help her over that hump? What do you think you brought?
For her, the big thing for her was she's a little bit older. She's in her 50s. And she felt
hey man, I'm in my late 50s. We're pushing 60 here. So if she's a little bit older, I'm a lot bit older.
She's a little older than I am. But she was thinking of herself as a little bit older too, and thinking that she had to be very serious. And, I'm somebody who's in my 50s and I have to be serious about this. And that was not like her, but her personality. In talking to her, I felt like the first time I talked to her, it was just on the phone, so I couldn't see her. I didn't have any sense of who she was. I was like, this person must be 30, 35, maybe.
So in other words, she was afraid. She thought she had to be a certain character
Yeah.
on stage, and then what you said was what you helped her do was just be your natural exuberant self.
Yeah, yeah, and
'Cause
she was energetic and excited about things, and it was just like, yeah, let that all out, because like that's who we want to see is who you are.
I had the same self-consciousness. When I talk about being a coach, I think of all these young guys, 27 years old, hanging from rocks from their fingertips, going, "Follow me, I'll coach you to the heights," and all that stuff. And I was talking to my ex-wife. I said, I do all these videos. I'm on, but I'm no Jay Shetty. I'm no Lewis Howes. I'm not these young bucks doing all, handsome, charismatic guys. And she said to me, "You are those guys. You are." Whether it's true or not, that changed it for me, because when I was getting on camera, I was like, here I am, this, 1 foot in the grave guy, trying to do what the young guys do. And when she said that, like, I took it in, and now I can show up on camera. I'm kind of goofy, right? Like, I may be 58 years old, but I'm kind of young, youthful, and goofy. And I can bring that, and I now bring that to my conversation. The other
Yeah.
thing that I didn't bring to my conversation is I can be kind of mean and kind of caustic, uh,
Okay.
which I'm told is some of the magic that's in my coaching.
Mhm.
Is that I'm very direct,
You call
uh,
somebody out.
and I call people out. And I did a bunch of videos about, for my last book, the 10 lies we tell ourselves that keep
Mhm.
us in overwhelm, right? And I
Mhm.
did 10 videos for those. And in the videos, I'm just kind of like, you freaking lie to yourself about this, and you lie to yourself about that. And my group, my mastermind, saw the videos and said, "That's the first time we've seen you fully show up on video."
Mhm. I love those videos too, by the way.
And I
But
thought I was kind of, like, I thought I was too mean, but it was me, which
yeah.
is really interesting. We're not our own great judges. So having a coach like you say, "Man, there you are. I see
Mhm.
you. I feel you." Having my friends tell me, "No, there you are," because I thought it was bad, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
coach one of my clients, and he's very monotone, and he's very, and he's got to go do a presentation.
Mhm.
So I made him do his presentation for me like 5 times, and I made him dance while he did his presentations. I made him throw his arms around. I made him exaggerate. Then when he did his presentation, I said, "And by the way, you're going to feel like you're nuts on camera, right? And but I'm going to tell you, it's going to come across like you're alive." So he did
Yeah.
his presentation, and I watched it, and I was like, "Holy shit, what a great job! I bet he feels so embarrassed." And I talked to him afterwards. He goes, "Was I crazy? I felt like my arms were going flail." I was like, "No, dude, you actually got to alive." Like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was like what felt crazy to you was alive. So having someone like you give the feedback and trusting you, I think, is invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of my um part of the gift that I think I have to offer people is I can get that read on people pretty quickly, I think. And so that's part of what I bring, is just my own, sense of somebody, where, like I was saying with my client recently, I had a sense of her within 5 minutes that was totally different than what I had seen in the videos that she was doing. And I really love being able to see that and share that with people and say, like, hey, try doing it, try doing something bigger, like hey, do something crazy here, because that's going to just help to really bring that person out.
I love it. So you can work with people remote with COVID and everything. You can work with. They don't have to be in the Washington D.C. area to work with them.
They can be absolutely anywhere in the world. I'm happy to talk to anybody, within reason, at any time.
No, yeah, I have clients in Europe and in Australia. Like, it just works, right?
Yeah.
So if someone wants to do this and just wants to inquire, like like what they're doing and what you might be able to help, where do they find
Mhm.
you?
So crownedfoxadventures.com, and that's crowned with an ED. And I do get some questions about the name, where Crowned Fox Adventures comes
I
from.
was just going to ask.
And it is actually a translation of my name. Renard, I knew since I was a kid, means fox in French. And I was looking up the etymology of Stephen a few years ago. It comes from a Greek word, Stephanos, which means wreath or crown. And adventures is really all about what I do with people, helping people to connect with their material, to connect with their audience, and bring that audience along on an adventure with them. And so that is how I came up with the name of my company. Um, And if you do go to crownfoxadventures.com, a little thing will pop up that says you can download a free PDF that has actually a whole lot of my thoughts, some of the things that we've talked about here today, but also a lot of other things about how to do better when you're in front of an audience or in front of a camera.
I'm going there, right? I'm going there after my next call. I'm going there. I'm downloading it because I want to be better.
Awesome. And so you go from that. It has the psychological things that I talk about with people. It has the emotional things that I talk about with people. It has storytelling tools. It has some technical things that can help people to understand better how cameras and lights work, because that's a really important thing right now when we're doing lots of things virtually. Is, people are going to see you in a particular way based on how your cameras and lights are, or how your camera and lights are showing up and how they're showing you. And there are things that you can do without spending a bunch of money or getting a fancy camera or
I spent $1,400 for my camera so I can look 3D.
Yeah, I use the camera that's on my laptop, and I built myself a little studio here. You don't even really have to do that. If you have a laptop and some books and a desk and a couple desk lamps with a wall behind your desk, you can get yourself a really good setup, and that's really all you need to do.
Brilliant. Steve, you're such a delight.
Thank you, Mark.
And you're a natural coach, right? You've done a ton of your own work, and you really know what makes you tick and what makes people tick. And to translate that into this specific vocation is beautiful, because people need it desperately. People are self-conscious, and I love what you bring to the world. So thanks for asking me to be on the podcast, because it's exactly what's needed.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate you having me here.
So, and all the things that Steve said about getting in touch will be in the show notes, so you don't have to remember any of it. You can just click and go there. So again, Steve, thanks for being here.
Thanks again.
And to everybody else, I love you a ton. I appreciate your time and your attention. Have a great rest of the day.